Hey you guys, good to see you as always here on the channel. I'm Ryan and welcome to Grassroots Gardening. On this channel we discuss everything plants, landscaping, and of course, hence the name, gardening. And today we're sitting out here on my back porch. I've been kind of scouting around. I got a beautiful Japanese maple we're going to plant today that's called Viridis. Now Viridis is a classic green leaf dwarf weeping Japanese maple. We sell them there at the nursery, and they're very popular. I've got two huge ones that are, as you enter the nursery, you go up the steps, I got one on either side, and they are just absolutely breathtaking. They're probably about 30 years old a piece. Bought them from a good friend of mine who grew them and trained them up for that many years. And they have the most beautiful fall foliage. They're like a bright yellow, orange, gold, I mean just exquisite fall color. And I like them because they don't get that big. So you're probably looking at about 6 foot in height on the Viridis. Mine are probably 10 foot wide. I don't know if they're gonna make it to 12 to 15. That's just kind of stretching it, but just that really classic Japanese maple look. I've got mine almost in a bonsai type form down at the nursery. But I'm gonna show you this guy we got right here, and let me show you the spot, see what you guys think about it. I think it'll go good right there. So as you come off the porch, go down to my little fire pit area. I've got a little spot right here where the shovel is, and I think that will be an ideal spot to put this maple. Now I'm not going to let it get ginormous. I'm going to prune it to kind of just encompass the area that I want it to. And that's a great thing about these Japanese maples is it takes a little bit of work. They're not very fast growers, so it's not like you have to prune them once a month or anything to keep them the size you want. But this one in particular is a pretty slow grower, and I think we'll easily be able to just keep it right here in this little area. But I think that'll be beautiful as you come down the steps, especially in the fall with that golden color right here. But we're going to get busy. We're kind of losing light a little bit. It's about 7 p.m. We're in late July, which brings me to another point. People all the time ask us, hey, it's too hot to plant, right? It's too hot. It's really never too hot to plant as long as you water thoroughly and regularly. You don't want to drown the plant, but we do have every day this week, I think it's been over 100-degree heat index. And so this plant's obviously got to have some water, especially since it's newly planted. We can't let those roots dry out too much. So every day, I do have irrigation here, but if needed, I'm going to drag the hose down and just soak the entire area around the plant. And since we are on this hillside, that's going to help with drainage, so we don't have to worry about it draining too much because the water is going to, naturally flow downhill. But everything's done pretty good on this hillside that we've planted so far. But let's get busy digging before we lose light. And again, it is already hot. Well, it's cooling down a little bit, but it has been hot as all get out all day long, you guys. So what we're going to do is just rake the mulch back in all directions so that we can reuse it. Once we get our hole dug, we can just simply bring our mulch back around the base of the tree. Hopefully we got some pretty easy digging around here, and yeah, we do. So we just got a nice sandy loam type soil. It drains really well, which is great for a Japanese maple because they do not want to have their roots damp all the time. Want a good, rich, well-draining soil. All right, so we got our hole dug. Next thing we want to do is just look at the natural shape of the tree. It's reaching out to the farthest on this side, and I think what we'll do is, let me turn around so you guys can see. We're just going to let him continue to reach out towards the fire pit area. I don't want him going towards the steps, so the most room we've got that's not going to interfere with anything is letting it go towards the fire pit area. So we're going to put him in the hole just as so. We'll just turn our pot over, give it a few good whacks. And this is not a very deep root ball. So I didn't dig us a hole that was super, super deep because, as I've told you guys in the past, we want to make sure that we do not cover up anything that wasn't covered up when we took it out of the pot. That can kill a tree. In fact, I'd like it raised up a little bit more, if anything, just so we get that good drainage. You bury it up on this trunk here, and it's probably a death sentence for your Japanese maple. And as you can see there, we've got our hole just a little bit too deep, so we're going to push some of our native soil back in the hole to elevate him up a little bit, get him turned just like we kind of want him, like we talked about a while ago. That should be good. I'm just going to come in here and kind of rough up the top, rough up the edges a little bit, get some of those roots loose, and then they can go on out into the soil in search of moisture and nutrients. And speaking of nutrients, y'all know that I'm not going to plant anything without my Biotone starter. This has got our organic fertilizer as well as our beneficial microbes, but in conjunction, we're going to use some of this Happy Frog, especially formulated for Japanese maples. And this has a lot of the mycorrhizae, which is a beneficial fungi. So we're going to use these two in conjunction, about a half cup of each. I'll first come in here with our approximate half cup of the Biotone, and I like to try to get it on the roots. That way those microbes can go ahead and attach to the roots and begin helping the plant. It's not going to stick every time, but I feel like some of them do hang on. And if it falls down in the hole, that's perfect, because that's where the soil microbes need to be anyway to do their job. Then we'll come in with our Happy Frog. This is fish meal, poultry meal, and I think it said fish bone meal, as well as some other organic fertilizer. And we're just going to sprinkle that all around. That has our mycorrhizae that we were just talking about. And that is really going to help this plant get off to a great start. Then we're just going to backfill with our native soil. If I had some Land and Sea compost, I would definitely throw it in, but I forgot to bring some home from the nursery. And I needed to get this plant in the ground today, so we're just going to have to go back with just our native soil. It'll be fine, but the Land and Sea compost would just help add organic material to the soil and help with drainage, because there is a little bit of clay that we dug into in this bank, and of course that holds a lot of moisture, which is not what we want. And so that's where that Land and Sea compost would act as a soil conditioner to help us with drainage. But again, I think we're going to be just fine, especially being on this hillside. And we'll just make sure that we kind of lightly pack around the root ball itself. We don't want to really compact it too much and choke out, waterways or areas for water to go down through it, nor do we want to cut off all the oxygen from getting down there to the roots. So we're not going to really step on it and tamp it too hard. Just kind of a light pack will be just fine for what we're looking for. Now we'll just take all of our mulch that we moved out of the way in the beginning and just kind of lightly scatter it back over here. This will help weeds from coming up, and it'll help keep the soil nice and moist. Now we're just going to set our hose to shower, and what we want to do is water not only the root ball, but all the way. We want to saturate. We want to saturate way on outside from the root ball too. What this does is make those roots want to grow outwards in search of moisture, because if we water just the root ball, well, then they don't have to go anywhere. And they say, hey, we'll just hang out right here, and would force you to water more often on down the road. But if we let the roots know that there's moisture outside of its nice little home that we just put it in, then we'll get that established root system that's so important to this Japanese maple's survival. And some of you might say, well, Ryan, you planted that tree kind of leaning. Well, I did a little bit, because you can do some really funky things with the structure of these weeping dwarf Japanese maples. So I kind of want it to curve that way. Then we may take it back. We're just going to make it kind of like a miniature bonsai, or actually it would be a full-size giant bonsai, I guess, because this thing's gonna be massive one day. But anyway, my point being is we kind of just want some funky structure just to make it look like it's been here, you know, a couple hundred years. And so I'm gonna leave it leaning, and then as the years progress, we're gonna train it to do kind of some funky stuff on this hillside. But I think that's the perfect spot for it. It should do really, really well right there. We've got some semi-shaded kind of spot right here, but it'll get just a few hours of direct sun, morning sun, and then the house blocks all the afternoon sun, and that should just be ideal. These can be planted in absolute full sun. This is one of the only weeping varieties that I recommend people planting in full sun, because they can kind of take the heat pretty good, just as those two we have down at the nursery. They're in absolute full sun. They do get a little leaf scorch around this time of year, but really, really tough, absolutely beautiful Japanese maple. Y'all, it is some kind of hot out here. It's muggy. It's like 150% humidity. It's still about 99 degrees, it feels. I'm just pouring sweat. I mean, it is just some kind of hot. But again, as long as we water this guy, you can plant really anything any time of year, even in the absolute hottest part of summer, as long as you're diligent on your watering. And another real important thing, you saw me fertilize this time of year. This is really about the latest part of the year that you want to fertilize, because we don't want to encourage a lot of crazy growth this time of year, because fall, I mean, frost is still a couple months away, but all that new tender growth will be, well, tender. And if it gets frozen, then you're going to have some dieback on your tree. So this is about the latest part of the year that I would recommend fertilizing a Japanese maple. I also just put that in there because it has that mycorrhiza, and that's going to really, I'm really focused on root development right now versus trying to get any kind of growth out of the tree. I want those roots to get in the ground, get established. Then next spring we'll come back and hit it with some fertilizer, and we should see, you know, a decent amount of canopy growth. Then year 2 and 3 should be really, really amazing. It's going to be a beautiful little tree. Be a nice one to look out the bedroom window and see that beautiful fall color. So give Viridis Japanese maple a try. It's good, probably zones 5 to 9. Again, I would suggest morning sun, afternoon shade, but it can take full sun if that's the only option. And yeah, I'm gonna let you go because it's hot. I'm going to jump in the pool. Appreciate you watching as always, and remember, the more you know, the more you grow. See you on the next video, y'all. Appreciate you.